In this video with the AnKing, I'm going to go over how to craft your narrative as you're getting ready to apply and match into residency. And as a reminder, we have lots of social media channels if you want more information on a lot of these topics, as well as our YouTube channel here. We'd appreciate if you subscribe if you like this content. We do have quite a few videos coming out down the road. And here's a link as well if you would like to get individualized help on crafting your narrative or any other part of this process. Crafting your narrative is something that probably should start even before medical school, but definitely at the beginning of medical school. And you should try making it so that all the activities and things that you're involved in can fit into 3 simple buckets. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this. One being when you get to your applications, you'll have noteworthy characteristics, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but there's 3 of them. So you can kind of have these 3 domains. The other reason is if you have 3 central themes to your application, then when somebody's reading through it, it looks like you have done a lot of things, but it's not too much that it's overwhelming, and they can see that you definitely have a dedication in certain areas that you've been able to continue throughout probably your pre-med and all through your medical school career. My first recommendation would be do what you love. Do what you enjoy doing because you'll be way happier doing it. You'll be more passionate. You'll put more time and effort into it and good things will come. And then you can try and fit it into these 3 buckets. Now, for example, I didn't know quite where to put the AnKing stuff that I've been working on, right? But I did find that I have a lot of interest in medical education. So I was able to fit it into that bucket. And then I loved tutoring and teaching and all those things. So I was able to put it all into one bucket that had this central theme, and that ended up being really good. And I found with all 3 of my themes that they got mentioned quite frequently throughout my interviews. So I feel like having the 3 narrative points really helps my application. Now, my themes were kind of a research focus. I kind of had this service, global health sort of focus, and then I had the medical education teaching focus that I mentioned. And I'll go more into details about those in a second here. But basically, you want these 3 central areas, and then you can do everything in your application around that. So much so even that you may talk to your letter writers and say, hey, will you focus on, for example, my research PI wrote a letter for me. And I said, yeah, focus on that domain for me. Whereas with somebody else, I worked on global health projects. So I had them sort of focus on that and volunteer work and those sort of things. And I basically made that whole application revolve around these 3 themes. I'm going to put this up on the screen right now so you can see these are noteworthy characteristics. This is actually a draft of them. They get submitted by your school, but you probably will have some input. And you can see as you read through these that my 3 themes that I just mentioned sort of carry through in this. And I think that is helpful for people to look at. My first theme of research, so things that I did, I did some stuff like we had this bench to bedside, which was actually kind of an entrepreneurial thing, but it involved research. And then I had lots of different research projects. And my advice in this is probably going to be a domain for many of you, but have a theme within the research. What sort of area of research in this specialty are you interested in? And why did you start down this path and things like that? For example, on my actual application to residency, I put my high school job as doing accounting for this small business. And the reason was because some of my research projects involved doing finances and how we can save costs in the healthcare industry. And I was able to tie that in and be like, even back when I was in high school, I got interested in this stuff and I've carried that interest forward all the way into medical school. So try and find your interest within that domain, especially if you're doing research. My other domain was the medical education and the teaching and stuff like that. So obviously I put AnKing in there and I had tutoring and making YouTube videos and educational content and all of that. But I also tutored at my school. I helped with a suture interest group. We had these events where I would go and teach high schoolers about dissecting goat brains and all those things. I basically put all that stuff, anything where I was teaching into this domain, and it really helped strengthen. I couldn't just put my AnKing YouTube channel alone. I had all of these other things. Like I was definitely interested in this topic. And the last one I did was service and global health. And I was able to build this narrative around how this is something I love, something I want to do in my future. But one thing I want to mention with this is, so I mentioned that I was tutoring and stuff as my medical education, but it kind of overlapped into this one as well because a lot of the tutoring I did was free, was volunteer work. And so it's okay to have overlaps between those. In fact, I would almost even recommend it. That means you very clearly have these interests that align with each other that you're going to carry forward throughout the rest of your career. And if you're able to show that in your application, it's really going to impress people. But in my service and volunteer stuff, I had a global health research project that I did, so that even overlapped with the research section. And then I volunteered for clinics here in town, multiple things like that. So all sorts of things that meshed into this service domain, but also overlapped with the other ones. like I said at the beginning, do what you love and then fit it into these domains. But as you're going through medical school, if you realize one of your themes is a little bit weaker than the others, maybe that will help prompt you and guide you as to what things you could put more of your time into as a medical student. So if you realize that maybe my tutoring and education, I really only have one activity, then you could find something else that's related to that that you enjoy doing just to beef your application, and that will help guide you. As a medical student, it's impossible to do everything. There's always more opportunities than you have time for. So I think crafting your narrative and deciding who do I want to share with the admissions committee when I apply. That's what I would kind of have the mindset as you're building this throughout the years.
Thanks for learning with the AnKing. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel here, as well as follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Patreon. That is at AnKingMed. Also, feel free to reach out via email or check out our website, ankingmed.com, for more tips and tricks.